Hello, everyone. It's Tammy with Next Level Me, and I am here with another segment of our Spotlight interview series. Today, I'm talking with Lori Lawrence, and when I met Lori a few months ago, I was so moved by her story, and I think you're going to be as well. Welcome, Lori. It's so good to have you today. Thank you for
Hi.
joining me.
Thank you so much, Tammy. I sure appreciate it. It's a privilege to be here with you today. I'm really excited about our time.
So, of all of the people that I have scheduled these interviews with, I think your story is the most powerful. Would you mind sharing a little bit with us around kind of what prompted you to make the career shift that you made?
Absolutely. So let's go back a couple of years. So in August of 2023, I'm cruising along in my corporate. I was an enterprise account executive for a very large telehealth company out of Boston. And I'm sitting at my desk working. It is a Tuesday morning, and I get a call from my brother, which for some people might not have been unusual, but for kind of our relationship, it was a little out of sorts. And he called me and he said, "Listen, I just got an email and I woke up to tell me what this means. Is this what I think it means? Am I being laid off?" So we went over, and sure enough, it was via email. Your position has been eliminated. HR will be in touch in the next couple of days to discuss your severance and so on. And I said, I have gone through multiple layoffs myself. And I thought, okay, that's kind of a different way of doing it. Usually it's a meeting with your manager. And I said, all right, let's get your stuff together. You got your resume, your LinkedIn. And he was like, no, I don't have any of this. I don't have a resume. I don't have LinkedIn. He's like, sis, I've been working hard for 20 years. I hadn't even looked up. I don't know what I'm supposed to be doing. So I got him calmed down. We started on the process, and I thought that he was moving along just fine. Although he had gone through a couple of interviews and not moved forward, we kind of reevaluated some things. So fast forward to October of 2023, same year. And I myself, in my job, was beginning to hear the rumblings of a big, huge internal kind of combination, as I was with a part of the division of the company that had been acquired a couple of years ago. So I was already beginning to hear rumblings of potential a workforce reduction. And so I was beginning to prepare myself because I've done this before, as I said. So I'm working at my desk. And again, let me give you a little bit backstory. I did not realize that my brother was in the darkest place that he could have been, and did not know that. He had not revealed that to anyone. And I actually got a call from a police officer who had found my name in his vehicle. He had driven back up to his former place of business, placed a big sign, this big, big sign, in the back of his truck, and it said, "Too young to retire, too old to start over." And he, in the parking lot of where he had worked for 20 years, stepped out of his pickup truck. And I hope this doesn't trigger anybody, but and he took his own life. And so when I got this call, it was very surreal, as anyone that may have been through something like this or get this type of a phone call. I just couldn't believe it. And so moving forward, having to deal with this particular bit of family tragedy business, I get laid off in January. And immediately I began to get calls from some other companies. But Tammy, let me tell you, my soul was not in a good place, not for work, and not realizing, because through my brother's service, I encountered, we had at least 115 people come through his service, a lot of coworkers that also had been affected by the workforce reduction at his former place of business. And they were struggling. And I kept giving them little tips, and I kept talking to them. It's going to be okay. It's going to be okay. And I realized at that moment, it was a couple of months after my own layoff and after my brother's passing, that I needed to pivot. I really felt the calling to help others in their job search, when I realized at that point, looking up for myself and then also looking up for my brother, that this was different. This market was different. There was way more competitive competition in the market than there were openings, and that you really had to move yourself in a different direction. So for me, it was a little bit of coming, and just really realizing, how can I design this? How can I help folks? I don't want anyone to ever feel so hopeless like my brother did, that there is not a way to get out of it, whether it is to kind of transition into consulting work, or doing some contracting work just to kind of get your feet back up underneath you, or going straightforward into another position in your field. And so for me, that is what powered my change, and my movement, in transition into a different direction, leaving corporate behind, and then moving into my solopreneur business as a job search career coach.
Lori, every time I hear you tell that story, I get chills down my spine and tears in my eyes because that is so extreme. And I one, pray you're successful in your mission because I hope no one has to go through that again.
Yep.
That had to be challenging, though. I mean, you're dealing with the loss of your brother, you're dealing with the loss of your own career. I mean, how did those challenges impact you, and what challenges did you face as you were forming your coaching business? How did you deal with those, and how did you deal with the challenges that came after you started that business and overcoming those?
So I think the first thing that I did is I realized that I needed to get some grief counseling. And so this really was grieving for the loss of my loved one, of my family member. And so in this period of time of actually working with a therapist, and it was it was online. And that is when she began to question me about, well, what's next for you? And that's when I realized, I'm not at all excited going back into a corporate position in enterprise sales. I had talked to several folks, actually had a job offer in February and turned it down, which at the time I thought, you're out of your mind. But again, as I mentioned, my soul would not allow me to do that. I was not in a good place. But in this time, I decided to take some coaching courses. I did my research and really got out there and looked at social proof of success, of mind changing. And I thought, wow, I can do this. I can take all of my expertise that I've had through my 30 years of corporate, and doing a lot of different things in corporate America, not just selling, but I also had done managing, had done some work with talent and acquisition. And then I also realized in this job search, you're doing a lot of what I used to do in enterprise sales, which was hunting opportunities and networking, building relationships. And so I realized this isn't much different, and it really isn't, than what I used to do. And so in just stepping back, educating myself, doing a lot of reading, I'm an avid both book reader as well as audiobook listener. So on my morning walks, I just decided to really begin to educate myself on what this business could look like and how I could go about using LinkedIn as a platform to allow people to know that I am here and I can help them. I even early on, Tammy, I did a little bit of pro bono work, as the company that my brother used to work for went through a couple of other sets of layoffs. And so I just kind of said, hey, if you've been through the layoffs at this company, I will be more than happy to help you get all of your resources together and kind of help you lay out a plan. And in talking with some of those folks and very quickly seeing them transition from the old position into a new one, I was like, I can do this. So a lot of times for me, and this is for me, I think a lot of times people want to get everything perfect. And I just jumped in. I jumped in the deep end. I started splashing around because I knew that even in a slight mistake or failure, it was not the end of the world. It just meant, oh, okay, so that's not a good direction. let's pivot over here. Because as a professional, you have everything that you need. You just don't realize it until you begin down that next path.
Thank you. Yeah, that is so true. As you know, I'm kind of reinventing myself right now as well, and it's the same thing. I'm just relying on the skills that I've always leveraged and all the talents that I've been given, and positioning them and repurposing them into a different thing. Was there a particular decision that you can think of that if you had decided something different, things could have turned out totally? I mean, obviously, if you decided not to do this and go back to corporate, it would have been a different direction. But even in forming your business, is there one decision that if you had gone a different direction, you think things would have turned out totally different?
You know, I did some trial and error. There were a couple of, business consultants that I had worked with that I got a little bit of information from. As far as doing anything different, I kind of, it's the old adage, and I can't remember his story. I think it was Cortez that when he landed on the shores of Mexico, if I'm not mistaken, he literally gave the orders to burn the boats so that there was no turning back. And that is kind of the attitude that I've taken is I have burned the boats. There is no plan B. There is only a plan A. And I don't necessarily teach that or mentor some of my job seekers, but for me professionally and personally, I didn't want a back door. I didn't want, oh, I'll just go get a job if this doesn't work out. Nope, nope. If I ever step back into actual a paying job, it would be because of fun. It would be completely different. It would not be for the purpose of this is now my career. My career is a career coach. I want to help job seekers that are in their tenured part of their professional life. And that is where I am. And that is who now I have defined myself. And I would wake up in the mornings, Tammy, and literally say, I'm the founder of Next Chapter Career Coaching, and I'm going to help as many professionals as God's going to put in front of me today, tomorrow, and I'm going to do all that I can. Now, if I've made mistakes along the way, yes, but that's a part of it. There's nothing wrong with making a mistake and learning from that and then just continuing to move forward. But for me, I like having that responsibility for myself and determining my schedule, determining on everything about my business and not having a manager or a vice president or a CRO tell me what my goals are. I'm learning to set that for myself. So as far as any mistakes or, would I do anything different? Nope. Again, burn the boats, move forward, be patient, keep taking one step at a time, even if it's a tiny little step, and then take the breaks that you need to kind of just regroup and balance all of the hard work that you're doing.
I love that. I try to save people who aren't country music fans from this, but there's a song out there right now called Backup Plan, and it has become my mantra. And basically, it's like if you're doing what you're born to be, getting back up, that's the only backup plan you need.
Yep, that's it.
And
Yep,
that
that's
has become my mantra, and I think you are living that as well, which
it.
is
Yeah.
admirable. So you've
Yeah.
already provided a lot of nuggets of wisdom. If you were someone standing on the crossroads of making that career shift right now, outside of what you've already shared, what pieces of advice would you give to those individuals?
Never go alone. That is the one thing, I'm very independent, and most professionals have learned to really appreciate the autonomy and working in their own world, if you will, regardless of what that job title is. But as you transition into either a different direction within an employment type of direction, there's nothing wrong with that. But my one piece of advice is don't try to figure it out all by yourself. I started out by just reading, getting a little bit of education, getting some good questions, being curious and asking questions to others that maybe have gone before me. And I've always been a really strong networker because again, in my old profession, as I was providing and selling solutions for hospital systems and health systems, I would build relationships, ask questions, really, really discover, what it was that that particular individual needed. Well, it's the same thing. If you're job searching or looking to transition, do your research, but you don't have to go it alone. If you're working with someone, that is like yourself, Tammy, that are helping guide you and ask questions and really kind of develop plans, then that plan becomes, if you will, that blueprint of how do I go and learn, take classes, or whatever that blueprint will allow you to discover that you need to fill some of those gaps in. So it's easier for you to take that next step. But the biggest piece of advice, and I tell my job seekers this as well, stop doing it by yourself. Stop operating within isolation. Even if it is virtual, you can be a part of a community, you can be part of a group, you can be part of working with, coaches, anything that will allow you to bounce off ideas, ask questions so that you're not just continually in this loop in your head and you don't know everything. So if you take your ideas to someone else, then that someone else can guide you appropriately. That, because I did try to do a little of it by myself to begin with, and that's when I realized I need a business coach. I need someone that has been before me, has helped others to provide, they can provide social proof that others have been down the same path that I have been, and then come out on the other side very successful.
Awesome. Thank you. All right. I have one last question for you as we wrap up. If your former self in your old career were to have some things to say to your new self, what would those be?
Um, Never be afraid. My intent is to leave a legacy so that no matter how much time I have left on this earth, I want to leave a legacy for the work that I've done to help others. Reciprocity is something that I really teach a lot of the clients that I work with, that if you are moving forward and giving, then there is so much that the universe will provide back. And you cannot operate in fear. Now you can operate in excitement, you can operate in, ooh, I wonder what's going to happen next, but you can't operate in fear, because fear just allows you to do nothing, to just sit and swirl these negative thoughts in your head of what ifs and why not. You don't know until you do it. And nothing, nothing, nothing that you do in a movement forward is going to be irreversible, in the sense of, that didn't work. Well, okay, Tammy, why don't I try this? What are your thoughts? What if I do this? And again, having someone there will help eliminate the fear, continue to build the confidence that sometimes it's very difficult to, completely kind of keep filling your glass. And I'm just a very positive person in which I really try to turn those fears and negativity of, well, I'm just not good enough. Well, I've never done that. I'm too old. That's all nonsense. It's really what you bring every single day forward in confidence and belief in yourself that, well, if 30 years I've been a senior project manager and worked with $10 million, projects, brought them in time and under budget, I can certainly then do whatever that may be, whatever that is next. So you have to kind of regain some of that confidence, and allow others to feed that confidence, and don't be afraid of that.
That's very sage advice, and thank you. That's a great way for us to close. For those of you watching today who may be at the crossroads of your career shift, if you've got a passion inside, take a piece of Lori's advice and let that shine, because you never know what's possible as your next level me. See you on the bold path.